Okay, okay. Welcome to Gru, and thanks so much for taking time out of your night and coming on the show.
My pleasure. Happy to talk to you and your cute little dog too.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know you, can you tell everyone your name and who you are? And
Okay, I'm Brinke Stevens, and I've been making movies since 1981. I've been in about 234 films right now in 40 years, and I did like 8 movies this year, so I'm still working. And I just directed my first feature film, Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bolorama 2. And I am so excited to talk about that some more.
nice. Yeah, that's actually the
So
movie. uh, that's actually the movie that we're going to talk about the movie. Your first, so this is the first time you ever directed a film.
Yes, yes, it is. I had done some short films before, and I have a 36-minute short called Personal Demons that's coming out any moment now on
Oh,
Toons 4, which is a horror
oh
anthology.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I got my start that way, and I always wanted to direct, and I've been attached to a lot of projects as a director, but they've all fallen through for one reason or another. There was a film called Tears of a Clown that we were going to shoot in 2020 in Cocoa Beach, Florida. And I
Hmm.
wrote the script, I was going to direct it, I was in it, and it was completely derailed by COVID. So I'm not sure that we'll revisit that.
Oh,
And similar with Sorority Babes, it was one of the Deadly 10,
yeah.
and they were planning it in 2019 to shoot in 2020. So it was delayed, but thank goodness it was back on the boards and we actually got it in the can. And I think it's going to be wonderful. I can't wait to see it. It's supposed to start streaming in late November.
Okay.
And Full Moon has a channel on Amazon and I believe on Tubi.
Yeah, it's Tubi.
Is it Tubi? Okay, that makes sense. I'm just, can't wait for everyone else to see it because the first movie was from the late 80s.
Mhm.
Michelle Bauer, Linnea Quigley, and myself. And we were at the height of our Screen Queen trio.
Yeah,
We did many movies together and we always worked so great. So it was a really successful film. I think it became a cult classic, and people
definitely.
that weren't even born when it was made were seeing it and laughing in all the right places and stuff. So when um, Charlie Bang called me up and he said, I want to do a Sorority Babes too, and I want you to direct it. I was so thrilled. That really showed a lot of faith in me. And I found that Full Moon is really into giving women a shot as
Yeah.
directors and writers and things, which is so admirable in the film industry. It's never been a better time to be a female director. So that was cool. And the very first movie I ever did was Slumber Party Massacre in 1981.
Oh,
And
that's the classic.
we had a female director, Amy Jones, and it was written by a woman, Rita Mae Brown. So it was considered the first kind of feminist slasher movie,
Mm.
even though we didn't really intend it that way. So I'm just glad that there's more opportunities now for women directors.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And so working like this isn't the first time you ever worked with Charlie, right? Like you've worked with him before.
Hmm. Yes, back in the 80s, Full Moon, I think it was called Empire then, did a
Yeah,
lot of the movies I was in. And I was also working a lot with Fred Olen Ray, Dave Dakota, Roger Corman. He did Slumber Party Massacre. So it was a wonderful time to be a young actress in Hollywood because there were so many great producers and production companies. And then in the mid 80s was the video revolution.
yes.
So my first few films, you had to go to a theater to see them. And then the video came along and one movie I did, Haunting Fear, I always say that's my favorite movie that I
Oh,
made.
really?
Yeah, it was like, I think 91, but it was only ever released on VHS. It got tied up in a contractual litigation for 30 years. And it finally, for the first time, came out 30 years later on DVD. And now people can finally see it. So I'm thrilled that we've got streaming services, we've
Yeah.
got DVD. There's so many ways to see a movie now. And, you know, things just get better with technology.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you've been doing this for a while now, and you're big in the horror world. Like everyone that loves horror knows you. And you're I want to get your take on it because some people like it, some people don't. How do you feel about being called a scream queen in the world of horror?
Well, I totally adopted it. Um, you know, and I don't know who first started using that term. There was Scream Queens Illustrated magazine, but Linnea, Michelle, and I were the original Scream Queens of
Yeah,
the '80s. You
yeah,
could argue,
exactly.
you could say Fay Wray was the Scream Queen, you know, from King Kong, but we were cute girls. We were in a lot of movies. We were willing to do nudity. And,
Mhm.
you know, at that time, horror movies were coming out where the male villains had masks. You had Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. They all had masks on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't since like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee that you really had some horror stars, and we happened to be cute girls. So we would do conventions, and we were in all the magazines as well, like Screen Queens Illustrated, Femme Fatale, and so on. So the fans got to meet us in person, and we became their darlings. So I'm happy that we're introducing Sorority Babes to a whole new generation, an audience. Hopefully they'll go back and see the original and see our trio in it. And also Michelle and I appear in a cameo in the new one. So
Really?
yeah, we both died in the first movie, but we were shot against a green screen at the fabulous Full Moon offices in Hollywood, which is a great place to shoot. There's so much fun stuff in there, like posters and dolls and puppets and things.
Nice.
So we shot our green screen, and we will be brought into the bowling alley, and the kids can't see us, but we're a sort of a plot twist where we kind of help solve this, give them the solution in the end of the movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great to work with Michelle again, and
Yeah.
Kelly Maroney's in it as well. Linnea was unable to reprise her role of Spider, so
Okay.
Kelly was a brilliant replacement choice. She's done some wonderful films. When I first saw her in Night of the Comet, I was just blown away. I'm like, who is that adorable little girl? And
Dang.
she's in Chopping Mall and so on. So we were really happy that she said yes. And she plays Spider's sister. Her name is Snake. And she does a kind of a telling of the story of what happened 30 years earlier, how two girls from the
Oh,
sorority died, and things like that. So there will be flashbacks in the movie. Linnea will be seen in flashbacks,
oh,
presumably.
nice.
But Kelly did a wonderful job. She was there the whole week we were working, and she's really a good actress. I said,
She
have you taken
is.
lessons with famous people, you know, like Stella Adler or something? And she said, no, she's just a natural. And you see it on her face, the emotions, and it shows on her face. And it was a real treat to work with her.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That really is. And like this movie coming out, you direct it. So how can you tell us a little bit about what the film is?
Okay, well, it takes place in the present day and it refers to events from 30 years ago. Like
Okay.
it's a sorority, there's new recruits. They're told the story by Kelly and T. Snake,
Yeah.
how several girls died in this hell night, you know, a prank to go steal this bowling trophy. So the kids, the new recruits, decide, oh, wouldn't that be fun to break into the bowling alley? And events, you know, kind of repeat themselves. It's a new and different imp. It's like Son of Imp.
Yes.
And the theory is that Michelle and I, when we died in the bowling alley, we were also trapped with the imp for 30 years. So we
Oh,
know him
okay.
pretty well by now. And, you know, the mayhem starts all over again. And there's some amazing special effects by Greg Leitner. And he also did the puppet from scratch because after
Really?
30 something years, yeah, the other one had kind of, I guess, fallen apart,
Yeah.
deteriorated. So he just based it on still photos and frame grabs from the movie and recreated the imp, and it looks fantastic. He did an amazing job on it. And then there's other incredible special effects where the kids' wishes go awry and
Yes.
bad things
Yes.
happen. So that's basically it. And then Michelle and I kind of help to save the day. So we have a
Oh,
purpose.
oh
Mhm.
wow. That's great. Y- I have to ask, like, how is it like working with something like with with the imp? Like, I mean, especially with the dolls too, like Chucky and Annabelle and all that. Like, how's it like to act with something like isn't there?
In the first film around 1987,
Mm,
the first Sorority Babes, they didn't have the imp ready yet. And
yeah,
so Dave Dakota, the director, just kind of pointed at a point in space and he said, everybody look here. Well, apparently our eye lines weren't right. So then they bring in the tennis ball on the end of a C-stand. So you all look at the tennis ball. So everybody has a line of sight. But Greg had, while he was working on the hero puppet, the articulated one where the eyes would roll and stuff, the mouth
yeah,
would
yeah.
work. He had a kind of dummy doll that he made. So it
Okay.
actually sat on the floor and we could see it. And I loved especially working with the actors while I was directing it. So I sat on the floor behind the imp and I read all the imp's lines so that I could see what they were doing, the actors with their faces and stuff. And that was my favorite part of directing. And, after having done a couple hundred films,
Yeah.
I've worked with so many directors and you're on set all the time. You observe all this stuff. So that was my favorite part was just the actors were young,
Mhm.
inexperienced. One guy, it was his first movie job.
Oh wow.
And yeah, yeah. So it was a real thrill to work with kids. And I just was so happy doing that. I would love to do that again. Work with Full Moon and direct another one.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And I mean, without giving too much away about the film, is there any scene you like filming the most?
Hmm. Well, the movie has a love scene and it
Okay.
has two shower scenes. And so my producer, Billy Butler, usually directs the movies, but
Hmm.
he told me he didn't really want to direct, three naked women in a shower. He gave the job to me, and I was real happy that I was brought in to direct. So these were young girls. They were kind of iffy about the nudity, but
Yeah.
I'm no stranger to showers. I've done quite a few in my life. So I was able to direct the shower scene. The love
Oh,
scene, the boy had never done a love scene before, but the girl had. So I took her aside and I said, here's what I'm looking for. It's very romantic, slow motion, a montage. And here's what I want to see. And she's like, I gotcha. And she gave me a little wink. And I said, you're going to have to kind of take charge of the love scene. So she
yeah.
did.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And even though the movie takes place in present time,
Yeah.
Billy Butler is an amazing producer and he did so many of the tasks himself. Like he
Okay.
designed the sets and the colors are very like pink and peach and aqua, kind of reminiscent of the 80s. And
Oh,
he also
wow.
did all the the clothing. So the clothing is vaguely 80s. And he's just an incredible person. I mean, he produces, writes, directs, acts. I laughed out loud when I read his memoir. So I was really there helping me. And he was just so funny. His comments are insane. like if this shot takes any longer, I'm gonna grow a beard.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And where did you film at? Like, the low location you filmed at.
We filmed at a 1930s mansion called Full Moon Manor in Cleveland.
Oh,
And
so that's Charlie's.
yeah, he bought the house.
Okay.
A lot of stuff has been shot there. Nobody really resides in it. It's mainly for shooting. But what an
Oh,
extraordinary place. It was 3 stories plus a basement. And they just paint the walls different colors and put up fake walls and things to make it look different.
yeah.
But it's an incredible place to shoot. And it was just really fun being there. And then when the other actors arrived, some of the boys stayed at the house, and some of the girls stayed at an Airbnb that was about 10 minutes away. So Kelly and I were at the Airbnb, which was also like a 1930s mansion. So
Really?
this was like the cream of the crop. Yeah, it was like being in the Beverly Hills of Cleveland. It was so beautiful.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Like, and
And
especially being in a building that's so old, like it has like a lot of history.
yes, and then we also shot at a bowling alley. So mostly we really only had the house, which was the sorority house. We had a bedroom, a living room. They built a shower outside because the showers weren't big enough in the house to get three girls to do a shower scene. So our UPM Mikey was also incredible. He did so many jobs, wore so many hats. He and his wife built a shower outside, and then we shot at the bowling alley, which weirdly, it was the week of Labor Day, and there
Mhm.
was a bowling tournament in town, and every
Really?
bowling alley was booked except one. And we were able to find a bowling alley that would let us shoot during the day, so we didn't have to wait for them to close at midnight and shoot all night.
Yeah.
And that's what we did in the first movie 30 something years ago. And I was much younger than we all were. And it was easier to shoot all night then than it is
Yeah.
now. So I was so grateful that we could shoot daytimes and didn't have to do night shoots at the bowling alley. That's really tough.
Oh wow. And I always ask guests this when I have them on the show. Was there any like funny or cool behind the scenes stories that happened while you were filming this?
Well, the whole movie was fun. We just worked so fast. There was never a minute when I wasn't doing something. And
Okay.
we had 6 principal shooting days and then a day or two of pickups and a day of green screen with Michelle and I. But 6 days is a very short amount of time to shoot a movie. So we were just moving real fast. And there was one actor who was a little insecure and was like, "Oh, how did I do? Can I see the playback?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry. We don't have time to look at playback. Moving on, next." Things like that where you're wrangling the kids and all the different personalities that you have to deal with. And I learned that as a director, you have to work with so many different kinds of people. Like you're
Mhm.
dealing with actors, you're dealing with crew people who are very different. They're usually older and more experienced in what they do.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with publicists, um, money people, producers. It's just amazing. So, yeah, you really have to be a people person and kind of learn how to deal with everyone.
Oh wow. Okay.
There was one thing, a fun thing I can tell you. The script, which we tried to follow really closely to honor the
Yeah.
writer, there was a scene where the 3 boys are spying on the sorority house girls, and the script says they're hiding in the bushes outside the girls' window, and there were no bushes anywhere around the house.
Oh.
So I got to be creative. That was so much fun. That's the part I love about directing. I said, "Okay, here's what I want. The boys are gonna sneak across the lawn,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
gonna hide behind the trees and peek out, and then we'll sell it that way." And then everybody says, "Okay," and the camera goes, the lighting goes, and everybody just does what I say. So I really enjoyed bossing people around. I never get to do that.
Nice. and and what would you do? I mean, of course, this would never happen, but what would you do if you were in a bowling alley being chased by an imp? How what would you do to get through the night and survive it?
Well, you gotta watch the movie to find that out. I try to kill the little or in any possible way that I could, but but he had magic, so, as imps go, he's small but mighty.
Yeah.
I've done so many horror movies, and I've been the, killer,
Yeah.
at probably almost as many times as I've been the victim,
Oh,
because
all
it
right.
was probably Fred Olin Ray who realized that you could do more interesting things with me than kill me. So he made me turn into villains in some of the movies, and I got really good at doing that. And
Nice.
nobody messes with me,
Well, yeah,
because
of
I
course.
I I was pumping gas in my car, and it was about midnight. It was dark and nobody was around, and these two punks crossed the street to hassle me, and they were
What?
kind of circling around me in my car while I was pumping gas. So I grabbed the squeegee there at the gas pump and I threatened them with it. And I act like the crazy woman. And they're like, "Whoa, lady." And they ran as fast as they could away from me. So I got it down. I got the moves.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. In the movie Haunting Fear, I go slowly crazy. And my character Vicky is completely insane and homicidal by the end of the movie. So everybody's like, "Oh, if you ever get in trouble, just do the Vicky."
Yes, definitely. Like that is so funny. Like they're over there trying to hassle you because they probably say, "Oh, this is someone who's nice and innocent," and then you go and
Yeah, yeah, then I go insane. So I like it. I think I can kind of take care of myself.
yeah, exactly. So, what what like actually drew you, made you fall in love with horror?
Oh, that's a good question. I preferred to read and watch science fiction when I was younger.
Okay.
And the first movie, feature film I got hired for was Slumber Party Massacre in 81.
Oh,
And I was an extra in a lot of movies, not necessarily horror. I was in Spinal Tap, I had a small role, Body Double, Psycho 3, I body double Diana Scarwood.
oh
I was
wow.
in, Naked Gun at the very beginning. So I did a lot of stuff that wasn't horror, but being in Slumber Party Massacre kind of just set the tone for the rest of my career for the next 40
Yeah.
years. I got murdered by a maniac with an electric drill. I screamed horribly. I died all bloody, and I've been doing that ever since for 40
Yeah.
years. So it's the weirdest thing. I always say that my career chose me. I didn't
Yeah,
choose it.
exactly.
I didn't deliberately pick horror. But I have to say, I am so glad I'm in horror because it attracts the nicest people.
Yeah, it
And
does.
yeah, I did a convention last year in Houston, and the Marriott Hotel was a little bit uncertain about having a horror convention there. And afterwards, they raved about it to all the other Marriotts. They said these were the nicest people. They were
Yeah.
awesome. And they spent a lot of money on drinks.
Well, yeah, drinks and merchandise and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they really are. I mean, it's a tribe, people that like horror, and
yeah.
they're so knowledgeable that at a convention, I was in Chicago a few months ago for a Days of the Dead, and I
Oh yeah, I
cannot
know that
even
one.
tell you how many people came up and said, "Oh, when I saw that you were going to be a guest here, I looked up your IMDb, your movie list. I
Mhm.
watched a couple of your movies." And they would say, "Thank you for entertaining us, for being my
Yeah,
babysitter when I was 9 years old in front of the television." I mean, they're just so nice. And I love
I
the
know.
fact that people know who I am when I go to a horror convention. I can walk down the street and nobody has any idea who I am, which I like. I'm anonymous, but at a horror convention, I feel so loved. And I
Yes,
don't
exactly.
have to audition anymore. I haven't for years, where people just call me up and say, "Hey, you want to play a police commissioner? You want to play the president of the United States?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I've sort of transitioned into more authority figures. When I was young, I used to do the co-ed, the shower scenes.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I play scientists a lot, professors, teachers, a lot of police, lots and lots of police.
Okay.
I've been sheriffs, chief of police, SWAT team leader,
Wow.
police commissioner, because I guess I project, sort of a no nonsense attitude. So I do
Okay.
like that. I like very much playing the authority figures.
Nice, nice. And and with these horror conventions, like you find out like how loyal the horror fans are. Like the horror fan base from what I saw, because I go to a lot of horror cons, and the horror fans are like the most loyal, nicest kind of people you could ever meet. And
Mhm.
for someone going to a horror convention for the first time, they think horror fans are crazy because they like horror movies, they like blood.
Yeah, yeah, I know. My parents just could never reconcile my work. They never wanted to see me die in a movie. They didn't want to see blood. They didn't want to see nudity. So I always say, when I was in the 80s, I would edit my VHS movies and
Uh-huh.
show them to my parents. I would cut out the nudity, gore, and death
Well,
scene.
yeah.
And my mother would always say, "Well, that was nice, but why are your movies like 36 minutes long?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a new trend, Mom. They're all short these days." Because I knew they didn't want to see that stuff.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny. And and what horror films do you like to watch during Halloween season?
Oh, well, let's see. I watch pretty much everything. I have Netflix and I really, work it. I just watched The Black Phone and pretty much any horror movie that comes out, I'll watch it. Even whatever I can get on Netflix. And if I'm at a convention, I pick up DVDs of more little, more indie films that probably
Yeah,
aren't on
exactly.
Netflix. And just to see, I like regional horror movies that are shot in different states and cities because you get an environment that you don't see around Los Angeles. It can
Yeah.
be rainy, snowy, gloomy. You get really old farmhouses and forests and things like that. So it's really fun for me to watch movies that are made in other places,
Okay.
not LA. So
Well, yeah, exactly. Nice.
That
And
was that was the fun of shooting in Cleveland on Sorority Babes too, was that we were in such an old neighborhood with these mansions. And every mansion was different. And, there'd been a lot of money in that area. And it was just so nice to see something different.
yeah, yeah, that mansion sounds really, really cool. Like
Mhm.
I would love to see how it looks.
Up on the third floor, which was the servants' quarters, there's
Mhm.
something on the wall that has like little bells, and it's got all the rooms in the house, like who's ringing the bell in
Really?
in the master bedroom that needs the servants to go.
Wow.
Yeah, it was back in the old, almost Gilded Age kind of when all houses had a whole floor of servants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. And for Halloween, do you ever go to any of the haunts, like the haunted houses, the haunted hay rides?
I used to. I was a guest celebrity up at the Scaregrounds near San
Yeah.
Francisco, and that was a lot of fun. I probably signed 10,000 autographs that week. And I have gone to Knott's Berry Farm. I used to go into West Hollywood, which is known for its
Well,
wacky
yeah.
costumes and all
Yes.
that. But it's become so difficult now because it takes an hour to get into Hollywood when it should take 10 minutes, and there's no parking, and it's
Mhm.
extremely crowded. I get claustrophobic. So I do a lot of different like private events. People have
Okay.
screenings and things. Like in the next 2 weeks, I have 4 horror movie screenings. And the one I'm going to this weekend, it's you walk the black carpet. And
Oh, I like that.
the after party is at a mausoleum or a funeral home kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
awesome.
gonna be a gala Halloween affair. I'm so looking forward to it.
Nice.
And then I've got my screening of Terror Toons 4 is coming up in early November with my short Personal Demons. So I'm really excited about that's coming out on DVD at last.
Nice, nice. And is there anything else you want to plug? I mean, we know this movie's coming out. You got your Terror Tunes for.
Yeah. Well, of the 8 movies I've done this year, I did 2 or 3 for Dustin Ferguson, Don't Trick or
Okay.
Treat Alone, and Beneath the Gates of Hell. And he's always fun to work with. He shoots really fast. And
Okay.
he does so much product. It's just incredible. Extremely low budgets, but at least it's fast.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I did one called How to Murder Your Coworkers and Get Away with It, which wasn't really a horror film. It was more of a comedy. And I did when I signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, but I played the head of a SWAT team, police, that's going to bust a drug dealer in this drug
Mhm.
warehouse. So I can't really talk about that except that
Yeah.
it wasn't a horror movie. It was cops and robbers kind of thing, drug
Oh,
dealers.
okay.
And I shot that in Texas. So that was really fun. I had my whole team of SWAT team and leading the way, and I loved it. That was awesome.
Oh, wow, sweet. And are you dressing up this year for Halloween? Are you gonna be anyone?
Oh, I dress up all the time. No, I don't really have a lot of costumes. I have a lot of black clothes and
Okay.
really cool jewelry. If I go to a Halloween, my favorite is steam master costume for that, for the top hat and the.
Oh, I-
Can you hear me?
Nah, I just lost you for like a minute. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's going off. Let me see. Everyone, I'm sorry. We got disconnected. There was a lost connection, but that was the end of the interview. I was getting towards the end, and I was gonna ask her where can fans follow her at. So look up Brink Stevens and go follow her. She's an amazing person, as you could tell with the interview. Go follow her social media, her IMDb, and go check out her films. She has a bunch of horror films coming out. Look on her IMDb to see what horror films they are. Everyone have a great night, and please go follow her. She was very nice, and I'm really honored to have done the interview with her. She is an icon in the horror world. So thank you and have a good night, everybody.
What happened?
So yeah, I mean, all I was gonna ask you next, like after I asked you about what films you had coming out, I was just gonna ask like where can fans follow you at?
Oh, okay. Well, I have a website, just brink.com. I don't really keep it up too much, but sometimes I list where I'm going to that. Facebook. I have 4 Facebook pages.
Oh, froze up again. Just pause. So you said just to follow you on
Yeah,
your website.
brink.com. Yep. And then Facebook pages, Instagram, and the website brink.com lists where I'm going to be appearing.
Okay, sweet. Well, thank you so much for taking time out for this interview. It was such an honor to meet you and talk to you. I've been following your films for years, and I'm a big horror fan, as you know, and I'm a big fan of yours too. So I really
Thank you.
appreciate this.
Well, I appreciate being on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, we'll
Bye.
definitely have a great night and great weekend.
Okay, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.